Anthony, is there anything else you would like to tell everyone about your speech?
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand why I thought this was a good speech to give at State of State. And so I did undergraduate here and had a lot of really great experiences as an undergraduate. And then when I moved into graduate school, a lot of those things became inaccessible because I was now a graduate student. And so I think it's really important to think about why that is that we cut off a segment of our population from engaging in Penn State activities.
How do you think your graduate experience has compared to your undergrad experience?
I'd say they were both really, really awesome and together have made for a really great experience at Penn State. I was really involved in sports and track during undergraduate. And then once I moved into graduate school, I started doing a whole bunch of different things, like student government with GPSA, or Moving On, which is Penn State's music festival at the end of the year. And so I think the sum of all of those experiences have been just a great Penn State experience for me.
What made you decide to stay at Penn State as a grad student?
So I'm doing a master's, and then I'm going to go somewhere else to do a PhD. And so it's kind of like taking a gap year between high school and college. It was more just to better prepare me for the PhD process down the road. So Penn State offered funding, the ability to kind of already know the faculty members in the college. Already had a support network in place because a lot of my friends were still here. And I think that compared to other schools where I might have gone to get a master's degree, Penn State really stood out because of all of that, which would enable me to be successful.
Yeah, so in your speech you talk about how there's barriers between undergraduate and graduate students in all these different factors of the university, and especially for the more social settings like clubs and other organizations. Why do you think that these barriers exist?
I think from talking with people about the topic, a lot of the times it's just people don't think about it. For example, Moving On, I mentioned in my speech, redesigned their constitution to let graduate students in starting next year. And when we talked about that in our meetings, it was something that the organization and the executive board had never even really thought about. And so once the topic was broached with them, it became a bit of a no-brainer for them to say, oh yeah, we should let any student be involved regardless of student status.
So in your speech you talk about some steps that could be taken to start breaking down some of these barriers within our university. So could you elaborate on some of those?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the times it just takes having a conversation with the organizations that you're in, because like I said with the Moving On changing their constitution, it wasn't so much a we don't want to do this, it was more of we just have never ever thought about this. And so I think the first and probably the biggest step to take is to go back and talk with your club sport or your special interest org-for-thon or your general, something that you're passionate about. Talk about with that organization and say, hey, think about the types of people that we might be missing out on because we don't let them apply to join.
So what do you think you would like to be the biggest takeaway from your speech for people that hear it today?
I think the biggest takeaway is that there are divisions that serve a purpose within the Penn State community in terms of student status, which I talked about in the speech with the legal status. We want to protect our undergraduates from potentially compromising situations that they aren't ready for example. But in the realm of what I call social situations, which is pretty much everything that isn't in the class or in a legal sense, there isn't necessarily a reason for it. We're just all students here. It shouldn't be an undergraduate versus graduate versus professional student. It should just be we're Penn State students and everyone should be allowed to do everything.
Jaden, is there anything else from your speech that you'd like to elaborate on for everyone else to hear again or to talk more about?
Yeah, so I feel like when it comes to a subject like this, it's really easy to look at it and say, we're kind of like telling Penn State you're failing. That's not really the point of it all, and I just want to make sure that it gets across that, I guess the best way to put it is, last semester someone once asked me, are you happy of what Penn State's doing? Do you take pride in Penn State? And for me that was a very odd question, because working with these students who are homeless or hungry, it's very easy to take a step back and say, no, I'm not happy. These are things that I want to get fixed. But at the same time, I am extremely grateful Penn State lets me talk about it, lets students come up with different solutions, and isn't afraid to have that dialogue. And so, yes, there's a problem, but there's a problem on many other college campuses. This isn't unique to Penn State. We have over 50,000 homeless college students across the U.S. What is unique is the fact Penn State is willing to have a dialogue, is willing to talk about it, is willing to work with students to move on and do something about it. So as much as it is easy to say, I have all these problems, I'm actually extremely grateful to go here and extremely proud of Penn State. And I do think I have a lot of Penn State pride because of it. It's that conversation that moves you forward.
So you're an RA on campus. Do you think that your experience as an RA has helped you throughout any of these processes, or has made you see some of these issues maybe in a different light?
Yeah, so I'm an RA on campus. I'm a third-year RA, and I work with first-year students. In my time being an RA, it's really easy just to ask people the basic questions. How are classes going? To write them off pretty quickly. And you can do your job that way and get by, but it's not doing your job well. Instead, sometimes it takes you a minute to find a point of understanding with your residents to see what they're experiencing. For example, when somebody breaks up with their boyfriend and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you might be sitting there going, okay, but you have to understand what it means to them and why it's so impactful and why it makes a difference in who they are and why they're feeling what they do. And I think that's where I learned a lot of the empathy from. And I think that has carried over to my work and how we kind of view things at the pantry in terms of a totalitarian standpoint. Because when you have that empathy, it allows you to do much more and connect much better with the people who go there, and also causes you to care a lot more about it. The people taking over the pantry next year, so my successors, one of them is a RA too, and I think for her, she kind of sees that she needs to take a step back to empathize with people and continue forward.
Cool, that's awesome. So from your speech, what would you like the audience to take away from it the most?
Easily the fact that there is a problem with students here who are living in poverty. That's the number one thing, because if you don't understand that, you can't even begin to address the problem. Second, I hope that it's a situation that they care about and want to get involved in.
Cool. That was so much weird.